enough time has passed to discuss the tragic passing of an Australian legend, Steve Irwin. I was a big fan. I was sad about it. Millions of people worldwide were very upset when he died. But that's not to say he didn't have critics. There's people that say, Steve Irwin harassed animals and bothered animals. Well, I don't agree with that. You show me where it says that snakes don't like getting ripped out of their holes and swung around by their tails and yelled at for a couple hours. Circled by jeeps. Everyone knows snakes gotta get out more. Where's the snake? He's in his hole. Again? What is he, depressed? Chin up, snake. It's a beautiful evening. And it was a huge deal. When he died, I mean, that was a big deal. Like, back home, it was like all the news talked about for 3 days. And we had 24-hour news networks, so they had to talk for hours. But they don't like to repeat in any given hour. So what do? The story takes 2 minutes to relay. Then they do a bio on Steve. And then they still have 35 minutes or whatever, and they got to think of stuff to say, so they just focused on the other element of the story, stingrays. And they had stingray experts on the news, who up until then had not been getting a lot of work. And the stingray experts taught Americans about stingrays, and there's a lot of news junkies back home. And so suddenly, every other person was a stingray expert just walking down the street. And you could just hear them just walking on the way to the cafe. You just overhear people, oh yeah, stingrays, they only bite when they're threatened. Otherwise, they're relatively docile. That's how Americans talk when we're home. When we leave the country, we tone it down. But when we're home, it's just a huge Sopranos episode. Because it's fun. And everyone learned something about stingrays they didn't know before. Did you learn anything new about stingrays? No? Did you know anything before? You didn't learn anything new, and you didn't know anything before, so it must be pretty scary being you, huh? For all you know, they could be anywhere. You're like, are they in the trees? You don't have to worry. And you're not alone either, because I've quizzed so many audience members about that. And the most common thing, if they know anything, they go, what do you know about stingrays? What'd you learn about stingrays? Well, they have a stinger. I'm like, you didn't infer that before? Isn't the fact that actually specifically 60% of the stingray's name is the word sting? Doesn't that give you a clue? What'd you think, they released bees when they were threatened? That's stupid, because bees can't swim, so you'd have to build tiny little wetsuits for them. That'd be expensive as hell. And you'd never be able to get the little flippers on their bee legs. It's hard enough getting a flipper on your own foot. You'd probably rip off half of the bee's legs trying to get the flippers on them. Then you got a bunch of depressed amputee bees swimming around the ocean, trying to suck nectar out of the coral. Like, damn it, these flowers are hard as rocks. They make my bee lips hurt. And I learned something that I didn't know, which is, and a lot of people here learned it too, as you'll recall, this is fascinating, the stinger is not only sharp, I figured that, but it's serrated. And that's something, isn't that true? Yes, it's true! Because guess what? I don't just make shit up! My act is based on fact and logic. Because at my show, we laugh and we learn together. But now here's the important part about this. So many people were tore up because it was really sad. And a lot of people comforted themselves by saying this. Well, it's terrible, but at least he died doing something. You all know what it is because everyone says that. But I just thought about it. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think that makes it any less tragic at all. If you die doing something you love, how does that make it any better? I love bowling. But if I die in a horrible freak bowling accident, I'm going to be pissed off about it. And you can remember that if anyone ever comes up to you like, oh my God, did you hear about Arj? Well, he was bowling, and he loved bowling. It's just like, he used to bowl all the time, and he always had that one bowling joke. He'd say, it doesn't matter in bowling, it doesn't matter what the scores are, because the winner's always the same. Hand bacteria. And he just thought that was so funny. Although he never actually used it in his act, he didn't think it was quite good enough. But he did say that maybe someday he'd have one of his characters say it, so I don't know what that means.